And let's just go through our agenda this morning. The minutes, I really didn't look at that until early this morning. Everybody else have a chance to look at the minutes and any comments or any changes that you feel should be made?
You know, I had mentioned at the last meeting that there were cars parking on West Neck. I was talking to Doug Gerard, and he think it's the fishermen, not town stickers.
No, I've looked at it also. It happens to be a house that's right across the street. Okay, that's.
I thought it was them too,
Yeah.
but he thinks it's the fishermen. I drove down Bootleggers and I looked and there's a lot of fishermen there. Do you have to have a sticker to park on Bootleggers? So those.
Well, the thing is though, people are allowed to park there, right? I mean,
Well, we've banned them from Bootleggers, so now this is the result, which you could have anticipated. But I just thought I'd mention it before we approach the home. That's all.
Can we get a motion if there's no questions on the minutes? Okay, to pass the minutes? I just wanted to move this here. Just to see how it.
I'll see, I
Tim can't see Howard.
Howard.
can. Hey, Howie, move over.
Howard. We're all good now.
Okay,
I'll make a motion, we accept it. Yeah, I just have something which I don't understand, but
okay,
I will. In the, I can just, Coco, in the West Neck, many of the planted trees that came from Pennsylvania, really embedded into the soil. I don't know what that means, I'm just gonna kind of take it out.
Okay.
Trails. Should be ADA areas, ADA trails. ADA trails can have clean.
We were gonna look into, you didn't know the material, I think, right?
We already have a kiosk there, so just
Updating it or implementing it, posting on it.
I'll just fix that.
modification, a couple,
I'll just do it otherwise.
just give it to,
I'll do
and we can change it.
I don't want to take up time.
Can we get a motion to move this thing forward and approve
As
the
amended,
minutes?
as amended by Tim.
As amended.
Yes, I make that motion.
Okay. Second. Okay. Let's just get into the financial report. This particular month, okay, this month, okay, which is actually for March, from the transfer tax, okay, it's $254,062, okay. We had a starting balance in our working Chase account of $1,867,000 and change there. There are various expenses that were there, which you see spelled out, okay. The ending balance in that account is $2,122,672. The New York class account, which is the high interest account, okay, has $9,682,468. The interest this past month, okay, it was $39,936, okay. It's kind of interesting if we follow the interest rates across, okay. The interest rates alone are more than really what we had budgeted to do maintenance on our properties. Okay, so that's the good news, okay? So that leaves a closing balance, a cash balance of $9,722,404. Okay, below that are the expenses that came out of it for WQIP. So the closing cash balance was $11,845,077.
Including WQI's money.
It's without taking WQI's money out.
Correct.
I'm gonna do that.
Right.
Okay. So if you look at the bottom of this sheet, okay, is this posted? You are able to post this so the public can see it? Okay.
But this is the new way of doing it from the last few months.
No, it's not. It's exactly the same format we've used actually from the very beginning, okay? But now that we have cookbooks that are supposed to be in place, it probably will be a different format next month, okay? And actually the expenses that are there, we should be able to have a report that shows actually specifically what we spent on each property and how it was broken down, which is, I think is a good thing. Okay. But if you look in the bottom column, the public can't see this, but anyhow, the revenue, the revenue to date, okay, and the upper where it's yellowed out, to date, the revenue from the transfer tax has been $508,083, okay?
For this year.
For this year to date. That's for basically for the first quarter. And you can't see, on the other sheet, I can show you, okay? So anyhow, the WQIP to date, okay, which we've allocated was 101,616. The WQIP expenses are shown. In the future, we're not going to be doing that. We'll just show a check that will be transferred from the 2% fund into the 20% fund of the WQIP. So in essence, okay, we have a cash balance of 11,845,000, okay, 845,000. We're indebted, if you look at the bottom column here, we're showing that we still owe WQIP $3,050,822. So when you subtract those two items, okay, you're going to see that as far as CPF is concerned, okay, we have a cash balance for acquisitions in our side of the table, $8,795,000 change. That's what we really have that's available to our CPF. The other thing is that, again, this is not for us, but this is why this will be taken out, because we've never shown what the commitments were for WQIP out of that 3 million. And that's not something I'm really going to be concerned about. And going forward, okay, we're just going to have actually there'll be 3 sections there. There'll be the Community Housing Fund, CPF, and WQIP. So we'll show the deductions, I guess, out of that same check, as I understand. The check will be exactly the same, so we'll show those 2 items coming out. I think the good news is that there should be financial.
Why don't
report.
they just make separate checks to each entity?
Because the legislation was all through
All through
community president.
CPF, okay.
So that's why they do that. The next sheet, which is I think it's just a good rule of thumb of seeing how CPF is doing. It's the one that has a tabulation of all the things. If you look at it to date, okay, we had 508,000. If we look prior years, we're probably half of last year and less than half of the prior year, 2021. So you can see that things have backed off considerably.
But consistent with 2020
And
and ahead of 2019, so,
2020 was the beginning of COVID.
yeah.
But anyhow, it's It's there, but if you go all the way out, to 16, you have, I didn't add this up, okay, but looks like you probably have 200, 300, about close to 400,000.
Yeah, so it's consistent.
Yeah, it's consistent. But that's 7 years later. Okay, so the values have increased with 1 to 2%. But anyhow, that's the overall position, okay? So, so actually, even when you look at it this way, you take 20% of, that's really only 400,000. 100,000 is going into QIP at this particular time. So they're in good shape. I don't have anything else to add onto that financial report. Okay, hopefully next month, like I said, since we're doing it a little bit differently, we'll be able to have more analytical information in terms of what we're spending, so on properties. Any questions? And the other thing that we should be able to have also is we should have, just like any business, you have your outstanding commitments in terms of accounts payable. For example, we have West Neck Preserve, which have a contract for. Okay, so we only made the first payment, but there's outstanding funds there, so that would be showing.
Which I'm sorry.
West Neck Preserve. Okay, we've
Right.
only made one payment to date, okay? So on that basis, question is, can we get a motion to accept the financial minutes, or does anybody want to add any comments on it?
So moved.
Folks?
Second.
Okay, so okay. Okay, we're back to the acquisition plan. Okay, we brought it up a number of times. I have a whole bunch of notes here. Haven't heard from anybody, so I guess I'm wondering, where is everybody? 'Cause
I sent mine.
Huh?
I sent my comments to you. Remember? Yeah, a while ago. Okay, I'll find them again.
Okay, I'm sorry, I didn't see them.
Yeah, that's all right.
Okay.
I'll find them.
I didn't send you them, but I have some.
Have some. Okay, BJ, what do you want to do? Can we talk about this?
Yeah, however you want to, I'm ready to type.
Okay.
If you want to just give me the copies and I'll incorporate.
Oh, I think we can give you copies, but
If you want to discuss the meat of it.
right. So is there anything significant, or is it?
I don't know, well, pages aren't numbered, but
She's made that point. She's made that point.
Just, it has to be mentioned at least 6
in the
times.
introduction, there's a,
But they are numbered. I'm not sure which copy you're looking at.
They're numbered.
I'm looking at the,
The original, I'm still working from the original copy that didn't
I
have.
the updates based on, I know
Okay.
a lot of updates from May 11. We sent it out,
Yeah.
based on our last discussion.
Right.
So it's changed. I don't know how to attack that now.
sorry.
What's the date?
I'm on the 3/9/20.
Oh, okay. All right, well, the new one's numbered because I got,
Yes.
I got the message.
Okay, this won't be hard, though. Okay, in the introduction, in the A through O section, it talks about H is preservation of pine barrens, considering of such biota as pitch pine and scrub oak. I'm assuming this introduction is Shoulder Island centric. But I think this information came off the Peconic Bay.
Correct.
So we don't have
Barrens.
pitch pine and scrub oak on Shoulder Island, which is a good thing because they're all dying. So H, I think, should be removed.
It's sort of a.
I think it's part of the legislation.
Yeah, it's sort of
That's what I thought it
the
was.
whole legislation.
That's what I thought it.
Okay, all right.
No,
The-
because then it.
All right, never mind that. Okay.
Well, actually, it doesn't matter. I mean, we can take it from legislation, but we don't have that.
No, it's just, I think if, I just took it to
Then you
be,
have to take the eighth out and not have it there.
Right.
that was my,
Well,
This
you know what I'm
purposely
saying?
blank. This H is purposely blank.
no, I just, there are a couple of these things which don't pertain to Shoulder Island.
But I think it's the overall legislation.
Or put in parentheses, doesn't pertain to Shelter Island.
We should take it out.
It's just that it just talks in 2022, the town explored the establishment of blah, 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 and then it goes on from that, update 2023 for Shelter Island will all allow blah, blah, blah. So it just seemed to me like it was Shelter Island centric, even though it's taken from someplace
Yeah, the
else.
whole thing is,
So you don't think it would be jarring to the reader that H is just blank? It's not there? Because it's, I can't re-letter it, it's the
Why not?
legislation. Do you
It
know
does,
what I'm saying?
it's not, if I remember, it's not cast in the legislation, but it's
Okay,
repeated as if
never
it
mind.
were.
We'll just leave it the way it is.
Well, you could just cite the legislation.
Well, yeah,
I mean,
I'm saying put it, leave it, but just cite the legislation. That's the basis upon which you put it in there. And there is really no change for it.
yeah, I would do that, then it's,
Or say where appropriate to Shelter Island,
Right?
in the interest.
I would just do something like that.
somebody will do that, don't worry.
This is actually a philosophical question.
You will send yours on to.
Yeah, so a lot of it was typos and stuff, but
The only, and I reviewed it again the second time, some of the things that I had questions on, and again,
I think Tim still has more.
I'm sorry.
Finish.
still has the
Well,
floor.
actually, what I have actually is really more of a philosophical thing. So maybe you should go first and I'll come back at the end.
Somebody, I want to be philosophical this morning.
Well, in aggregations, the town has developed the following aggregations: aquifer recharge aggregation, it talks about fresh pond aggregation. And preventing development, it talks about the two properties that we have. Preventing development in these areas reduces possible contamination of this aquifer by fertilizers, pesticides, and septic systems. So my question is, and this also comes up in a near shore sentence, and that is, I think it's great that we have these properties on Fresh Pond, but I think when you buy properties, it should not allow bad practices to take place. In other words, it's like an exchange. Well, we have these properties and therefore people are still free to use pesticides, fertilizers, and retain outdated septic systems on Fresh Pond.
Do you want to put that right in there?
I think it's just a general thing.
Is that the appendix section there?
No, it's in aggregations.
But Tim, because we aggregate, CPF aggregates with the town and whatever, in the county, blah, 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 aggregates, we can't make that guy over there on his own private property.
I understand that, but I think when you do something like that, it allows bad practices to continue. I'm trying to think of another example.
Yeah.
It gives people license to, it's like.
It doesn't give them license, because we buy the property, doesn't give them license.
No, I understand. What I'm saying is, I think there should be more oversight. If you're going to buy property to protect something and lessen the bad effects of something, then I think you should also, for instance, if you put a new well in, let's say, in an area that has saltwater intrusion, then those homeowners should have meters, so they're not continuing to overuse the water.
Okay.
Because just because you put in something doesn't mean that, well, now we're free to use as much water as we want because we have a new well. So that's what I'm getting at.
That's more legislation from the
Well,
town.
it is, but I just want to bring it up because
That's happening, yeah.
I feel that's what happens.
Yeah, I just.
Well, I think, if I understand you correctly, it was almost like when we were looking at Fresh Pond and the conversation over acquiring that one piece of property. Okay. At the time that acquisition was, we looked at that acquisition, let's put it this way, okay, I felt, okay, and it was, I relayed this, is that, what I wanted the rest of the community that was around, that was receiving the benefit of making that acquisition.
Yes.
We'll do this acquisition, but this is like some parameters of what the expectation, which our expectations are for them also as residents and part of the community. For example, if that property had been acquired, okay, I felt it was like they should go for the grants,
Correct,
okay?
correct.
And, you know, that we went down that conversation and it was, but that's what, I think, is that what you're talking
That's
about?
exactly what I'm talking about. I mean, for instance, I don't use a lot of water. But sometimes I'll see neighbors using a lot of water during drought periods. So it's almost like, okay, we're not using, it's not like an advertised thing, but, you know, we try to be careful about water, and then other people, you know, it's almost like if I don't use a lot of water, it somehow gives license to other people, I can use as much water as I want. And I just think on an island that has so many environmental issues that I think it's not as if you say, okay, we're going to buy this land, but we're going to buy this land and you have to do X, Y, and Z. But I do think that we do send out a message that communities that benefit from the purchase of land for offsetting saltwater intrusion or at Fresh Pond, those residents within those areas need to step up. And I think we need to,
I actually think we can go in here, in the first paragraph under aggregations, one or two statements I'll put in, based on what you said.
that's all I'm saying.
I agree, but I think, that, as I said, it's the town board.
And I know it is a legislation thing, it is the WQI, QI focusing on areas that should be doing stuff like they're doing in the center, but I felt for quite a while that Fresh Pond, they just need to put into systems.
I agree 100% with you. I really do. And the same conversation just came up with the Menantic Creek group. So, you know, they're very concerned legitimately that the water quality of Menantic Creek is going down. They're taking actions to measure the water quality, the oxygenation, and one of the questions we brought up is at the WQI is how many people have IA systems around the creek to help prevent bad things happening to the creek? And the answer was not very many.
Fresh Pond, same thing.
Well, Fresh Pond is one hiccup with this. Right now, with the new remediation that's starting, you know, that big project, multi-year project to take
Phosphate.
sludge, you know, that process. There's, Joe Fenora has said that actually a certain amount of nitrates is needed in that process. I know, it's, there's something about that process and the balance between the two bad
Right.
things happening, that the process, there's no rush, in other words, it's not a bad thing, but Fresh
Well,
Pond is a little different right now.
A certain amount,
Wish I had more of the science.
a certain amount will come out if they have the IA systems anyway.
Right.
So,
Anyway,
and if you need a little nitrate, you can add some nitrate. You don't have to have it pouring in, I guess is another way to look at it. I mean, it's.
Yeah.
anyway, each place is going to be different, but
Yeah.
I just, as I read this, this is what I think.
I agree with you, but what I'm suggesting is it's tilting at windmills because you can't make somebody do something they don't want to
Well,
do.
no, I understand that, and money is involved, particularly with the IA systems, but
Well, the WQI is actually recommending that we essentially take away the scoring system and say to anybody, if you, starting in the center, I guess, but if you want an IA system, we're going to give you the grant. And we've also asked to raise the amount because it got reduced because of the fear of COVID, loss of money, blah, blah, blah. So that's our recommendation, to try to get anybody to do it and then add, I think you both agree that you would assist anybody in applying. So, I mean, we are taking those steps, and then we're going to do some advertising, and that's my report on the WQI. We're going to try to do some advertising and get people do it. BJ, I think, crafted a letter to the folks in the center to say, we want to test your water to let you know how bad your well is, and then get you to put in an
How
IA
much
system.
would the individual have to pay though, out of the grant? I mean, would the grant cover all their costs?
I can't answer that because you don't know all the complications of anybody, because.
Average-wise, though, no.
Average-wise, no, right? But, you know, there are exceptions. I think you are one of them. Right, when you put in your IA system, you had a big extra expense after all the grants. But I think that was an exception, so.
I don't know. I have no idea. That's what I'm asking. It's
Yeah,
not
as far as we know,
with
it's
the grant.
a general exception, so.
The average cost is about $32,000, and they're want to increase it so that, yes, the average cost would be covered, but on average, the exception.
That's good if the average cost is covered. That's great.
Not right now.
So, anyway.
Anyway, I digress.
Comment.
I digressed a little bit, but it actually comes up in Appendix A in the background again. It talks along the shoreline, the threat to drinking water quality is primarily from saltwater intrusion. The cause of this intrusion is multifaceted, climate change, overdevelopment, and overuse, leading to insufficient pressure. So it's just we're sort of pointing out these things, but I think they suggest that there actually are ways to address these that does not have to do with, I mean, I think again, it's great that we purchase land to try to offset some of these problems, but
Just enough.
if we're going to do that, we need to do more.
Yeah, so there should be some sentence about
Taking the cholesterol medication so you can have a steak.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that was really my general,
individual responsibility.
yes. Okay, that's really what I had to say.
But in reality, even if we put all of that in here, other than us, I don't know who else is going to read this document.
Well, I think.
We have to have it, but.
I understand that, but it has to go beyond this document, which is why I bring it up.
Well, yes.
This is really something that you can't depend upon the CPF to bail out communities entirely by purchasing land, putting in new wells, et cetera, unless you're going to have a real discipline about what you're doing with our resources.
Well, it's interesting. Maybe this is why this thing has been tumbling around, is that you're saying if when we do if we should take into account what other things, when we do acquisitions, what other things can what are the other benefits of the acquisition, and how do we improve on making that acquisition short of just buying land? So if there are other people who are getting benefit, okay, and we're really creating, we're helping even the adjacent people, okay, with their water quality. With this, we should have some expectation, or that we should have some kind of communication of what we're doing and how can they participate. That's really what you're saying.
Yes.
But that's an education thing. It's not, you can't legislate it. You can't say, well, okay, Tim, because you won't put in an IA system, we're not going to buy that piece of property next door.
No, but I don't think, I go back to even with Fresh Pond, because when that question, when we were dealing with that, I felt to myself, if we did this, there is some responsibility. If we're doing this in the case of Fresh Pond, where the larger beneficiaries are people that surround the pond, okay, what was the harm? And just let me finish. So, the answer I always got was, well, people don't have the money, okay? And I guess the point I'm getting at is that, and it's like even in the center, it's one thing to provide all of this stuff, okay, but there is something, I'm a pretty liberal guy, but there is something that there's some sense of, we have to have individually with some sense of responsibility of helping ourselves as well as helping our neighbor. I mean,
I agree with you 100%, but the guy who's building the 12,000 square foot house,
Right.
You think he really gives a hoot and a holler? I'll put in a cistern. Don't worry about it. I'm going to have that truck drive on the island and ruin the roads.
I don't think that's.
Fill up my
I don't think that's
cistern.
what Tim is saying. He's saying, yes, we can get into that conversation, but I don't think that's for us at this point.
But
okay?
that's.
But I think, this is the first time this acquisition plan that we're looking at, this is the first time that it has included WQIP. You realize that?
Yes.
We've never had that. We never.
It didn't exist the last time it was done, so.
Right. So I guess I think what Tim is doing, I think that there are times when you have a closer neighborhood, when you're buying property, that these things should be brought up. I guess that's really what we're saying. We can't force anybody to do anything, but again, let me just go through, if you're done, I want to go through.
I am. But it's spun up specifically with the white property. It talks about the white property and it talks about the issues in that area and how this will help. And that's great. And, obviously there's more to the white property than just alleviating problems in the neighborhood.
Correct. Yes.
And yes, education is certainly a part of it, but I think as the town moves forward into the future, this needs to become much more of an issue. And that's what I'm saying.
Why don't we, at a further date, do a sheet of what we have done CPF up to for, the past 5 years, and with each property say, these are the responsibilities of the individuals to make sure what we've done work better.
Well, it's hard to go back. What Tim is bringing up, since we have a new acquisition plan, is that perhaps we should look at it in a different way, meaning what other things besides just buying land should be implemented and part of the training,
Okay.
part of the educational service is that, if you had the white property for what you're using, do you want your neighbors next door to start putting in swimming pools? You know what I'm saying? If we're saving water, I'm just throwing that out as an example. And I don't think it's a bad concept. And I almost think some of that should be maybe in the questionnaire that we have, I think is really outdated. Okay. And
What question is?
the point system.
Oh,
Okay.
Yes.
I mean, because we've been through we've discussed this, and I think some of the questions, and the county uses it because they need a measurement of some type, but it's really very general and broad, and it's not, we've had issues over a point system. For example, we could deviate and we could say, okay, is the water, we've had this issue over water, the quality of water, or even on an acquired property. So it is, if we're acquiring a property and we're talking about recharge, but the wells are bad, okay, and I don't even know how, we should just take a look at it. That's what I'm trying to say.
I just bring this up and
No, I think it's a good comment.
I agree 100% with what you're saying. I'm just saying it's impossible to make somebody else do something.
But Tui, or couldn't this committee do an outreach every time you buy something?
Yeah.
For the neighbors?
Yeah.
A
Yeah.
letter that just says, look, we just increased your value of your property by buying this property and preserving it.
And here's other
And
options
so
for you
could
to help. Yes, I
Join the
agree.
fight here, I don't know, that would be.
That's a good idea.
Anyway,
Okay.
I rest my case.
Okay.
Good case.
Did you want to add anything, or are you just going to send it on to Peter?
I'll do this. I think it's in the town.
Okay.
I didn't know this was on the agenda. I guess I didn't see that last night. So,
All right, send it on.
I haven't had a chance, but I
The
will
only,
look at it.
the only thing that I wanted to bring up again, and it had to deal with the appendix, there's two items. There was Appendix A, and I guess this was never in here. Basically, I don't have a page number. I would suspect it's probably 10. Okay?
Say it again, Gordon?
It's Appendix A, it says background.
Yep, I got it.
Okay, and the issue that we had talked about this, and I think there are two things that I felt should be here. It talks about lands preserved to recharge the aquifer are important, but added to the mandate will be lands that would be potentially used for well fields. I think that needs to be explained in a little bit more detail. I think, it seems, it's like we're preserving it for water recharge, but it's not for, this whole thing of extraction is somewhat not questionable, but I think it's in conflict a little bit, okay? And my feeling is that the well field, not a problem, but I think that portion, or if it's that way, I think the well fields themselves shouldn't be part of community preservation. They should be a town responsibility. So example is if you had a 10-acre piece of land, or even in the white property or whatever it might have been, I think if that's part of the way of looking at acquisition, we should look at, well, what piece of that property could be taken out and belong to the town for well extraction. Does that seem unrealistic?
So, but I guess how, when you're, I mean, would you then be looking at specific pieces of property that had that potential? Or,
Well, we look at it, but I quite honestly, when we do acquisition, and you've heard me say this, we've looked at properties where I said, this was really better geared for affordable housing, and we did a halt on it. And we did bring it to the town board, okay? So, I think our responsibility is not just in acquisition, but it's really in an environmental area, okay? And there's nothing wrong with us when we see a piece of property, hey, this may be better for affordable housing. This other one may be for, I'm just, I think all the, right? I mean, for us to look at it in a narrow venue, I don't know whether I think we should be looking at the overall island, benefit of the island, no? I know you've said to me, well, why are you even talking about affordable housing at one time?
No, when we did talk about it,
Yeah.
it was like, there's certain properties that do lend themselves. If that's the goal.
So the issue with the wells, okay, I just feel to myself that some of,
Okay. But you're saying completely separate, right? Not as part of a CPF?
it shouldn't be paid for with CPF funds.
Right, that's what you're saying. I just want to make sure I got it right.
And then, I mean, the same, very similar legislation that the North, the South Shore has, okay, they do exactly the same thing. They pull it out as a separate item. Okay, so-
but it's
But not from a purchase that, it's just.
And it's not being used for a well.
Right.
It's for the potential, and you set some criteria as to how or why it would be used, but it would be that's why we really do need, we really, the overall plan of water and all these things in the island, they're all interrelated, just like our committees are all interrelated with, so we really need some, we're only, I shouldn't say we, I'll talk about myself, okay? How much do I really understand? I mean, I understand what facts that have been given to me the best I can, but we really need to have a better understanding of our water, okay? And I think
that was my.
that is something that I think, that is something that we should have now.
So, Mr. Gordon, I just want a clearer understanding so I can actually get this correct, that you're saying, so like the Thetford property, let's just say the Thetford property, one corner of it or half of it would be good for a well to go into. Are you saying then CPF wouldn't be involved at all, or you would do a joint with the town funds, or you would?
I don't think it should be part of being paid by at a CPF. I think it should be evaluated, okay, but not included as part of the acquisition.
Okay, so that's what I'm saying.
So it's like we can talk about, well, we got this piece of property and, we're thinking about it, and obviously the town makes all the decisions, so we're only an advisory board. So if that matches it, there's no reason why we can't talk to you about it. And if it makes sense and the seller is okay with that type of an arrangement, why not include it? But I don't think it should be part of the expenditure of CPF. Does that make any sense? What do you think, Tim?
Yeah, that's what I was trying to understand. If the town pays for that portion,
Right.
CPF pays for the other portion. But I guess to the other point about the whole island.
Right.
Is we don't have an idea of.
Exactly. So the thing is, even if you have a piece, we don't know really how it plays. Meaning we don't know how it plays out in terms of, we're learning some things in terms of flows. We're learning things. We're learning all this, and it's like a moving ball. We start one way, it's this way. We've had a lot of, 180-degree turns. Okay, so my feeling is with water being so important, and quite honestly, this all can be funded through WQIP.
Yes, it can.
Money back.
Okay, so anyhow, I just think we should just look at it. I think you should explore it, okay?
So here's an interesting wrinkle. I thought I sent you this article. I just tried to find it. It's hard to find it on the phone. But I just sent you this article about Community Preservation Fund in Greenport.
Right.
And they're talking about now looking at acquiring waterfront existing commercial use property.
As part of community character.
Yeah. And then trying to envision what that property would be like in the future.
That would be like,
very
I hate to say this again.
Buying the Dory.
No,
Well, you know,
that's one of them, okay?
Yeah.
But it also goes back all the way.
not to use it, just
It goes back to when we were, we didn't have any funds, but when we were joking about, maybe we should have bought the Ramsey Inn,
right.
okay? I mean, you're right, what we're seeing lots of uses, and that's why I think it's been discussed that that advisory group is really important. It would be nice to sit amongst the group of the East End towns and see what they're thinking on, because we can see that this is being, a lot of these things are being bent, they're being used for other functions.
Well, I don't think it's bad. I think that,
Well, Jake Schneiderman was asking for being able to use the CPF funds in the general fund.
well,
Yeah, that's-
I mean, that's, we go in a different direction with some of this
That's-
stuff, okay? So I think we have to be careful. I don't want to take up everybody's time. And then the only other one that I had was in again, I would normally refer to it because it's not in my venue, but since it is included in the CPF document, is the Appendix F, okay? Which is the proposed water quality improvement projects. I think the language, in my mind, we have, like, some of these things, this is the first time we've identified or have put projects down, okay? Which is what we had been going through for years, okay? But like the item number 2, I'm assuming your committee, all these things
I
come
don't know
from.
what item number 2 is. So.
It's a centralized wastewater treatment plant for the municipal buildings would be positively impact the quality of the water and specifically reduced by nitrates and so forth. We're talking about a plant. I don't think it makes any difference whether it's a plant. It just has to be
Wastewater treatment in general.
general. Yes, that's what I'm trying to get at. Okay, I think whatever the solution is, because it also then allows you to use alternative systems even in your resident, not that you can't, but I'm just saying it just seems very specific here. And,
Does your committee look at that? I'm sorry.
I actually missed a couple of meetings, so I can't tell you.
Well, when I started reading this, as well, this is their part and their heartache, and so I just kind of skipped it because I figured.
I would make just one comment. Coco did send it, maybe she can resend it in case people didn't get it, but because I didn't, since this came, I was quite frankly preoccupied with some personal things, and you haven't read it yet, so if you maybe resend that document that is formatted, is redlined,
I
is
think it's on the
paginated.
website. It's been posted on the website. It's draft number 5.
On the website, it's not a Word. So you might want a Word document. It was
Yeah,
sent on
yeah,
May,
yeah.
it was sent on May 11th if you want to look in your emails, but Coco can resend.
But if we all, well, yes, that's fine too, but if we all just work off the same documents, when we look at things, we have the
Right.
correct referencing number, because it has changed.
And the other issue was that, it talks about fresh pond remediation. I don't know whether, it's a project, but I think that if it's hard, if you're looking at one, you should be looking at all of them. Not that this is not a competent project, but,
Because you do have to enumerate specific projects, I think, in order to sequester the money, that's not the right word, but in order to, you have to have specific projects that you're looking at.
And the other thing that I felt, okay, is I would really love to see title changes. You want to really improve water, okay? You sell property, that's the time to clean up this wastewater, okay? And particularly along the shoreline, and since we are talking about near shoreline overlay areas, okay, I think that that to me is like a no-brainer. That should be, and again, it's always been, well, we can't do mandates, but I'm just saying that if we're really concerned about water,
We've talked about this, I agree with you 100%.
but it should be, I think if it's at your recommendation, why not you put it in here?
The town board approves this, don't they?
I don't think this, I don't know whether, you guys wrote it.
We didn't write it.
What do you mean you didn't write it?
Again, I don't think that WQI wrote
This
this.
is a draft, no, it has to come from.
No, when we're all done.
When
we're
you're
all
done, we'll, yeah.
All right,
Yeah.
so the town board can, you throw it in and the town board can take it out or put it in.
I mean,
WQI can take it out.
Well,
why don't put it in? That's
for us not to put, we're talking about it.
Right.
It's a good suggestion, and the town board should consider it. You and I have talked about this.
I know that, okay, it's just that this is.
For years.
Yeah, but I don't want to go into another committee.
It's not another committee, it's
So
all.
what I mean is that this is here in CPF, so I feel like I'm bringing it up, okay, but I'm just saying to you, that's
It's supposed, it's,
added.
add it, if you want to add it on it, and then they'll either say yes or say no.
How is that a project?
What is a project?
No, it's not a project, I think it's a
That's what
different.
this is, though, this is a list of projects, you know what I mean?
Well, no, because the initial thing, how we set up it, the initial, what was it? The direction was for individual IA systems at the very beginning. From 2016, that was what you were focused in on, okay? I mean, we didn't have any of these lists.
Okay, I lost Gordon, I'm sorry.
Okay. BJ's asking why not add it in?
No, I said add it in,
Okay.
but BJ's comment was that, well, we're in the project section. So your recommendation is that the town board, I don't know where to put it, forget that.
I don't know.
The comment is that we're recommending, this committee recommends that the WQI and the town board consider
Okay.
mandating at least septic system examinations upon title change, which is what they do in Massachusetts.
Correct.
You can't sell a house at
You and I know that.
2A.
We know that.
I think it's
Right.
called. You can't sell a house in Massachusetts without a certified engineer or some kind of certified person coming to inspect your septic system. And if it needs remediation, it has to happen before transfer of title.
Correct. Either 3 years before or 3 years after. So, I mean, they have, it's not like it's tomorrow morning, but they want, I mean, if it has to be.
No, sometimes it's
No,
now.
it's not, yes, but the remediation, and what's it?
Forget that, don't get into this,
Right.
nuts and bolts of it.
That, but I'm
Just, the recommendation is that town consider at least an inspection, if not a mandate to update to an IA
So
system.
if you have a failed system, okay, what then? Should it be addressed?
We don't have to discuss that.
Okay.
That's the engineer to figure that out. We're not going to argue that here.
No,
The
I
point is,
understand.
we're making the recommendation that that at least they examine the septic systems to determine if they're failing. And the other next step would be to, on transfer, put in an IA system, especially if we're going to pay for it all.
That's it.
I believe this was taken up several years ago.
Yep.
Albert, I know, was pushing this.
Yes.
And the thought was that this puts a burden on the seller, I think.
Well, no, the other thing was that there wasn't the infrastructure, the installing capacity was felt too at that time, but I think that's changed.
Okay.
I think that they could keep up with it,
Oh, I-
installers.
Absolutely believe that.
And Tim, it's not, it shouldn't, it's in Massachusetts, it's not assigned to either the buyer or the seller. That's something that's worked out. It's worked out between the buyer and the seller. It's almost like if you have bad water here on the island, if someone buys a house and their water, how do they, does the seller accommodate giving them some money back to put in an RO system? Or is it the buyer who has to provide the RO system for the seller? That's something that's, that becomes a negotiated.
But
Negotiate.
I think it should be back in the.
So we're making that recommendation today, that be included in this plan.
Correct. Okay.
Okay. Which means that the May 11th plan will have yet another update, but that's okay.
That's what we're doing.
Yeah.
So when BJ finishes maybe we should get that.
Yeah, I'm sure we will.
Right.
The other question, since it seems to be a lot of conversation on it, is the whole issue of fertilization. Okay, I looked at it, okay, I don't, some people don't even know what it is, okay? And,
What, fertigation? Did you
yeah,
say?
fertigation, yeah.
Fertigation.
Fertigation, sorry, not fertilation. Fertilizing. Okay, so I think it would be interesting to know more about that because I'm not really up to speed. I don't know how other countries have wastewater and like Israel.
A good, if I could just jump in,
Yeah.
a good example is Riverhead. The Riverhead plant waters the golf course across the street.
Right.
And it's a perfect example.
I've been to some of those meetings and
Does it work?
what's interesting, they can't use enough of their waste.
No, they have to actually release.
They're releasing it, right?
They do both, but the point is that they upgraded the plant to such a degree that it's safe for watering the golf course across the street. It's actually, I've had 2 tours of that facility. It's quite amazing.
Why don't you write an article in the?
Pardon?
Write an article about it in the Shelter Island Reporter, or get somebody. 'cause that's
Yeah,
interesting.
charity, send charity up.
Well, this goes back to what we were talking about initially of, that I said, well, WQIP could really pay for that person to do environmental concerns. Meaning, this should be recommendations and really what does it work? How dangerous is it? I mean, other countries have a wastewater that people drink after it's done. Now, I don't know how you get to that level and it's
I think you can drink the Riverhead water.
no, that you can't drink, I can tell you that. That I can tell you for sure. That I can tell you for sure.
We went to a restaurant, we tried it.
I mean, it's amazing what they do here.
So, and again, it was interesting, so that was one of the issues. I see you have so it basically is the title change that I was looking at, changing some of the language in the water treatment because we don't care which way it goes as long as the science follows it. And that's basically the comments that I have. And we'll send them on to you. Kathy, we'll look at that and send it on to you. BJ, any questions that you might have?
No question.
Oh, I did have one thing in Appendix F, proposed water quality improvement projects, and number 7, pesticide fertilization reduction elimination programs. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yep.
But it's my understanding that actually the town does not have oversight over pesticides
But programs could be education.
education.
And I think we also could do some sort of licensing for pesticide or education requirements for pesticides applications, but I'm not sure about that. But that could be part of this, like explore all that.
In order to do pesticides, you have to have a county license, which means you have to pass a test. And
Yeah, but maybe to apply
Oh,
here.
don't our sprayers, don't they have licenses?
Yes.
Don't they have, is that right?
They do, but I mean, just for the other day, I've never seen this before. It's a new thing to me. I was on the way to the South Fork, and as I was about to go on the South Ferry, I noticed there was a huge hedge along the road. And somebody was out there with a truck and a sprayer spraying the whole hedge. And so
Get out of the car.
I got out of the car. I said, "Miss the ferry." I got out of the car and I asked the guy, who probably gets this question a lot because he had that look in his face as I walked towards him like, oh boy. Anyway, he was spraying for privet mites, for mites that attack privet hedges. I know the name of the company. I'm going to look them up. Call them. And I looked up what chemicals are used as miticides, and they're not good. And so it would kill anything. And I said, well, wouldn't this be killing other beneficial insects? And they said, oh, no, it only hurts the mites. And plus you have a lot of nesting birds often so if you have a nest full of nestlings and they're being sprayed with, they're gone.
It's going in the wind too.
So plus it was just going all over the place. He wasn't wearing a mask or anything.
Of course.
So it was disturbing to me because it was way beyond even what the tick sprayers do. It was like just this hose, just right next to the road.
When we contacted the DEC, was one recommendation, was to kind of get a public campaign out there to say, yeah, rat out your neighbors. Like, in other words, you should have called the DEC that day. And because that's the only way, first of all, he's spraying without a mask, second of all, he's spraying it sort of maybe excessively. And you know, maybe a phone call from the DEC to that applicator.
Yeah, no, I know the name of the company. I mean, yeah, because right next to the road, if you're driving with your windows open and the wind is going that way, it goes right into your car, so.
And that's the other thing to note, again, with this public education, I hope it's being worked on anyway. On windy days, you're not supposed to apply at all. What is a windy day? And, you know, we have to.
Well, unfortunately, that day we had horrible air from,
On top
It
of
wasn't going
everything else.
anywhere.
it was probably worse than what.
We had to drive
rain,
air anyway.
Yeah.
But, anyway.
All right, any other comments?
So, in terms of working on the priority list, anything you can do, that's kind of,
I have I have,
I think you'd like to sort of have that in a few.
I have the changes, I just need to send them to you, okay? I took the map, the changes, because some of the properties were already purchased in that list, okay? So it's just a question of, I actually, it's hard to do it this way. I was hoping that perhaps we,
No, none of the properties on the updated list have been purchased, I don't believe. I took out the ones that had been purchased.
okay, then, and then I don't have the current one, okay?
Okay, so there's that, and then I did do the maps. But I thought someone else, I just put in the last map I had on the front cover now, on what's preserved, but I don't know, I thought someone else in here was working on a new map.
What, as far as preserved properties? Yeah,
It's,
but we use somebody, I forgot who did it the last time, because we have preserves that are not on there.
right,
So we'll do that, want to get it done before the green options.
yeah.
So that's one of the things, okay?
Actually, I just have two other quick questions on Appendix F and those water improvements. One is, it is hoped that a steady annual installation rate of the IA systems can be reestablished at an approximate rate of 50 systems per year by end of 2023, if not sooner. Are we on target for that at all?
No, we did approve 2 last week, but during the pandemic time, I think there was a total of 3 or 4 approved. That was it. So
I mean, how long are the applications good for? Like,
you can redo them,
so
re-up.
can something be 5 years old?
Yeah, sure, and sometimes it just takes forever. I mean, we have cases pending that people are still working on it. We approved funding the other week for somebody who was, you weren't at the meeting, but Bailey.
I watched.
It was,
2019.
yeah,
Billy, yeah.
it was 4 years. I mean, it's,
So whatever was in 2016, that's done, that's what you guys are done with? Or
not necessarily,
pending?
not necessarily. I think we still have, I can't, off the top of my head, I don't know every pending one, because I haven't seen the list in quite a while, but the point is, there are pending things, they take forever to get done. If there's, a glitch, especially now with the whole thing with the county, with the computer system, it's just forever. It's unbelievably how complicated and
Stamp takes forever.
it takes forever.
And then just one other quick question.
And the county had.
And well, that's what I'm saying, it's just, that set everything back for
It's a goal.
9 months.
No, I figure it's a goal.
Well, that's why we said, let's take away the scoring system. Anybody who wants one can get it. Let's concentrate first on the center, obviously near shore as well. But, and try to get more people to do it. Create some kind of an education program.
Go around with a truck with a loudspeaker.
Yes.
We want your.
Drop leaflets from helicopters.
One other quick question, and it's about the centralized water treatment plant number 2. Where it says for municipal buildings, that does not include the school, right? That's just the town.
Right. Although the school did hold out a hope that they might be willing to hook up their new IA systems to a plant to get it from 19 to 3 milligrams of nitrates.
Oh,
And to treat potentially, potentially treat emerging contaminants. So
okay.
that was held out there, whether or not,
Okay. And I don't want to take us off track here, but just one quick question. The water treatment plant would only serve the municipal buildings, but would it allow the hookup of surrounding houses to that system?
Establishing a sewer district, which would also require a referendum.
Okay. So for the
So
time
municipal
being,
buildings, you don't have to, you can just go
Right.
do. But if you wanted to do what you suggested,
like
it's.
the heights,
Yeah, it's a bit more involved, and so the first step is establish a sewer district. Then also by doing that, the environmental studies that we have done would have to be redone. So it's a different kettle of fish.
so we're really, the water treatment plant is only to treat the municipal buildings.
Yeah, because that's what the secret
Okay.
report was about. And as I said, also sewer district would be needed,
Right.
so kind of limits everything.
So better get those IA systems in there.
Exactly.
Let's start digging tomorrow.
I'm done.
Done? Anybody else? Okay.
Like preserve. Excellent.
Let's go back to West Neck. Tim, where are we?
Me?
Yeah.
Okay, this is gonna be very brief. I've been prodding Rusty for the final plan. He promises me that I'll have it this week. I was hoping I'd have it today. And the only other thing is the mugwort is about this high.
I saw that.
So I'm gonna talk to Brian this afternoon about cutting all the mugwort. I will have to go there and make sure there are no turtles. I'll walk ahead of the mower and just make sure that there are no turtles or other.
The turtles are out of hibernation now?
Yeah,
They should be out.
That's what I'm saying, they're out of it.
Kind of cold, but they should,
and their eggs.
actually, they are out because somebody crushed a
Yes.
large turtle in the road last week, which was outrageous.
Trust me, nuts. I hate that.
Yes, it drives me nuts.
Let's talk about the Green Expo. When is it this year?
It's the 26th of August. The only thing that may be different this year is it may be in a different location, depending upon the school installation.
Right. Forgot about
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
So I met with Janelyn yesterday, because she does the craft fair. And so we talked about where it's going to be, probably behind the school in that ball field. But we don't know yet. It depends on
August, what date? I'm sorry.
26.
August 26th. That's a Saturday, right?
Yep.
Did you say the same day as the art show?
It'll be the exact same day, yeah. And we kind of decided we could stay, I mean, hopefully it'll all work out, because that's pretty close to Labor Day when school opens. So I'm assuming they have to have a functioning system by then. So it may all be fine. But you don't have to worry about that. I'll think about that. Anyway, so the 26th, we're going to have an expo.
Okay. We'll talk about it next month. Okay, just wanted to get that out in the open. And the format is going to be the same, I'm assuming, correct?
Yes. And I think it's going to be really town-centric again. Maybe we'll have a couple of guest stars, but
Okay. I didn't, okay, fine. Obviously, I forgot myself here with the road, the gravel, the drainage on the White property has been installed. Gravel is down there. The road is the gravel portion, not the finish coat, but the gravel portion is there to where the parking is going to be. Okay. Brian, we're supposed to have started this already, but we didn't, waiting for him to come back. He's out of town. Okay, and we're gonna start as soon as he comes back in to clear that space. Okay, we decided to do it after we looked at it. It was it's gonna be a whole lot less expensive than using Corzini, who was there who was doing the main road. So because we don't have to we're not putting big trucks over it, so we don't need some of that stuff. But what we do want to do is to match the same aesthetic look, okay, of road coming in. And and have it a little bit better than just having mulch through where people can get stuck and stuff like that. So it'll be a little bit later on that, okay? So that really is the update on that, okay?
Staying with the white property, I noticed that the parcel that we bought from Carla on Monantic is completely overgrown now.
Yeah.
Gonna get that.
Yeah, we got two major things. I wanted to get this parking thing straightened out, and then we have to start, we discussed it months ago about stewardship plan and the name of the property. So that was going to be the thing that our next meeting, we're going to focus in on the white property in terms of the stewardship plan as to what the language looks like and how we're going to do those other two lots and do. I think we need to maintain those paths that were there.
Yeah.
Okay. And, one of the things is that we know that some of them, the 4-foot paths are too small. I think we have to really have 6-foot paths. Okay.
Right.
And then we also have the issue over at Lima Bean Field, which is, that always closes in. Okay. Everybody says, well, why don't you do what you did over at West Neck property? Because I don't like to be shot at every day.
That's something.
So, Julie, you did the WQIP update, and we sort of,
We're gonna take off of here anyway, so
I'm sorry?
we did agree last meeting, we were taking it off the agenda.
Right, okay. I think it's still good to have an update, I think, just like how it is here. I don't, is there any new business that anybody wants to bring up? Okay. Again, when we develop the stewardship plan, I know Howard is here today. We want to make sure that we're working and get your guidance in terms of some of the language. And we've walked the property ourselves multiple times, so I don't think it's going to be difficult, but I think what we need to do is we need to work with CAC in the future, right? Yeah, and coordinate some of our, I think they can help us because they were dealing with wetlands, and obviously that piece happens to be a wetlands property. We did meet out there not that long ago, okay? But that's really where we are. Anybody else have anything really to, go ahead, Howard.
I would just like to say, the Atlantic Peninsula Association really appreciated the work you did. I don't have to say the word.
No. But you only got 3 minutes, Howard. You got 3 minutes.
And, we're watching that property, and as we said, that portion from Simpson Road is completely overgrown. You can't get in that way right now. I walked that about a month ago and came out with a lot of ticks, so we have to be very careful in there. But also I found an interesting thing. On low tide, you can get to the property around the brush.
You mean when that marsh, when the
When the low tide, you can get from the end of Simpson, the west end Simpson, walk along the water line, high water line, below the high water line, and get into the property.
that's not muck down there.
No, you got low
Really?
tide. It's good luck.
That's what I was saying. We do have access from.
We won't need a bridge then.
No, I wouldn't put in that.
I just didn't know the property line, so I couldn't really tell for sure.
Little walkway across the creek.
We have this, the markers. There's a stone monument.
I thought that we said we were gonna just put the big white cement filled
Yes,
PVC pipes.
well, there are markers there now. There are monuments. Okay, some of them are low, but we gotta, that property is pretty easy to find those monuments, and we should do that. Yeah, you're right.
Anybody ever walk the property just over the ferry in North Haven, at the town hall there? There was a trail back there and has a.
Yeah, they had something going on.
Beautiful bridge that goes over
I haven't walked.
Really nice.
Where's this, Joe?
If you just go off the South Ferry on the right at Town Hall, there's a whole like preserve.
By the town hall.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, definitely worth checking out. Definitely wants to fix.
Is the Nick Moorhead still at 1 o'clock today?
Yes, Nick, yes, that's the last but not least. Okay, the memorial for Nick Moorhead is at Dickinson Creek Overlook at 1 o'clock today, okay? Obviously, the county will be there. Members of the public are welcome to come, and that's it. Okay. If we have nothing else here, I'd like to call for a.
Want to ask the public?
Oh, yeah, good thing, I didn't do that. Let's see, who do we have in the public today that wants to speak out? I see we have members in Zoom. Is there any questions that anybody has? Lori, Julie Lane?
I'm fine, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Julie. All right, if there's no one else, okay, I'm going to make.
Lori.
I'm going to ask everybody. Lori, do you want to speak up? Do you have anything you want to ask?
No, thank you.
Okay, all right, now can we get a motion to,
So moved.
Second.
thank you. Good. Thanks.